Welcome back to the 293 Code podcast. And today episode is self-reflection. It's our 20th episode.
Woohoo.
So we're going to reflect back to a lot of things that we talked about. Let's get into it.
You know, we talked about a lot of things that was like heart warming and very touching, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, realistic.
I'd say emotional.
Yeah, that too. I mean, because, you know, we sitting here today and we talking about reflection, and it's just like, as we about to go into a new year in a couple of months, you know, and I look back on like the year 2023 of all the ups and downs and the highs and lows, and just still sometimes wonder like, man, still moving along slowly, not as fast as I would like it. But I guess there are some points in my life where I feel like I can't complain. What about you?
I feel I'm moving into a different era. It's definitely, like I said, are we in 2023, right?
We're in 2023 right now.
2023 has been challenging. And I could say for a lot of us, as far as, you know, dealing with our self emotions, our self mental health. Not only that, we have to deal with, you know, all the bullshit that's going on, you know, outside of that. And so it's really learning how to sit and like just reflect.
I think the hardest thing that I had to learn in life, and it really taught me this year, is that I can't run away from myself. I can't run away from my problems. I can't run away from my issues. You know, I have to deal with it. And at the same time, you know, it's very challenging, especially when it comes to your mental health, because your mental health, you know, reminds you of who you are. And sometimes there's a part of you that, you know, you want to change. You may not be able to change it. You can adjust it, but as fully changing it to become somebody else, you know, coming to realize that's not possible.
Right.
You know, it's all about dealing with who you are as a person, adjusting it, fine tuning it, and keep it pushing. You know, and it's just like 2023, it was a struggling year for me. I had a lot of challenges that I had to overcome. And did I overcome it fully? No, I still deal with them. You know, I still have my issues and my problems that I have to deal with every day that I wake up, go to bed, you know, but I'm still trying to learn how to tackle it on a day-to-day basis to tell myself, you know what, I'm going to make it another day. Not that I'm going to be fixed or I'm going to be fine and I'm going to be okay, because that's kind of like me lying to myself. But you know what? You know, it's just that whole step of taking it like day by day. Because I mean, like, shit, stress is a real killer here.
It really is. It really is.
I mean, you know, them days where you just find yourself so stressed out for the whole day to where it's just like, no matter what anybody tell you, no matter what anybody say to you, it's just like, it's never going to be good enough from how you feel, you know? And I'm like, I know everybody have those moments or those days or whatever, but it's just like now, even with the weather changing, it's starting to get darker early. It's just kind of like, man, here come the gloominess. Now it's that battle of like fighting with yourself to be like, you know what, you got to get up. You know, the anxiety come knocking at the door like, hey, we got everything. What we got to worry about today? Your mind just can't be clear. You got to worry about something, you know, and it's just kind of like living your life like that every day. It get very tiring after a while.
It does. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know. I feel like maybe, you know, this year, and I feel like this year was much harder than any other year I had to face.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about as far as, you know, emotionally. Like, I've dealt with a lot of things back then, but it seems harder. I feel like
this year was hard. Maybe it was because it was an odd number. That's what I'm going to go with. I think because it was an odd number. I know for me this year, I did a lot of crying emotionally. I was sad a lot, you know, and I tried to wear those down masks and half of them didn't fit. So I traded them in for a different mask that really, but it still didn't feel like me. To where I could just say, hey, this mask fit and I can wear it. You know, it still was cracking on the sides and in the middle. And you know what? That mask would fall off and I would put on another one. Because at the end of the day, I still wasn't happy. Nothing brought me joy, and it's just kind of like 2023 was one of those things where it just like it hit you and you never knew what it was going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Forrest Gump said to Belly, with the box of chocolate, you never know what you're going to get. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of how like life is when you're dealing with your mental,
mm-hmm.
because you have to tackle something that is a reflection of you that you don't know the end result to.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying? And like, that's a tough pill for a lot of people to swallow. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, I don't know. I mean, the best advice you can mostly give people these days that's really struggling, because I know around this time, especially when it's we're in the fall or whatever, people struggle a little bit harder. Take it day by day.
Mm-hmm.
Because you really can't tell nobody how they supposed to feel.
Nah, really can't. Really can't.
And it just kind of like, yesterday was mental health awareness month, and at the same time, it was kind of like a sad day too.
Why is that?
Because you think about the loved ones and the ones who've been fighting this battle for so long that didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
But then at the same time, you have to give credit to the ones who still fighting.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's a touchy feeling. You know what I'm saying? Because how can you celebrate something and embrace it when you got both ends of the spectrums in your hand?
Mm-hmm.
You got a right and you got a left.
Right.
So it's like, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, it's touchy. You know what I'm saying? But like I said before, the best advice you can give people is just like, take it day by day. Because can't nobody write your story for you.
All right.
I mean, your story is going to be your own journey. And your journey becomes who you are and, what you want to become. But at the same time, it's just like, this shit is hard.
It is hard. And it's, now that we have social media, different platforms on social media, you see a lot more things. And some of it is, good knowledge. And some of it, you could tell if you're struggling with your mental, how it feeds your fear.
Yeah.
And I just feel like a lot of us I feel like trauma always repeats itself if nothing's ever done, in the sense of, healing, working on healing. Now, it's never gonna heal you completely, but just working on it is going to give you the tools to identify, your trauma, your triggers, and all that. And, that's another reflection. And I feel like here's a good reflection.
What?
People's ego.
Yeah.
I'm learning, back then we really didn't talk about that,
No, we didn't.
Really didn't. But then you start learning like about people's ego and how like true thing is hurt people.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And it's that ego that keeps you in that insecure mode and that hunger mode and wanting more. And you think you have a right over people, and you don't even have a right over yourself.
I think the part about the ego that you were saying earlier is that sometimes when we tend to meet new people, we meet their ego instead of meeting the actual person.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get stuck on the ego part of somebody. And then when that person actually removes that ego for a moment and show a bit or a part of themselves, then we're like confused because we're just like, well, you're not this person anymore. You changed. But then you got to ask yourself, who did we really meet? Did we meet the ego or did we really meet the actual individual?
Well, the actual individual, it's the vulnerability part. And the reason why I'm talking about this is the Israelis and the Palestine war. And you start to see a lot of ego stuff going on there. And, and just pretty much, I feel like that part tried to control and manipulate folks is just, absurd. And that's something we have to reflect. And so if we reflect, then we start bringing up these issues that we have about ourselves and why we are doing the things that we're doing.
Right.
So I just want to touch bases on that.
But the ego sometimes get us in trouble.
Because, like now.
Yeah, because, if you wear the ego for too long, like I said, people get stuck on the ego and they assume that's who you are as a person, that when you finally show your true self, don't nobody know how to handle that. And then you got to ask yourself, are people willing to accept the true me?
Depends on where you're coming from. If you were raised to have that type of persona on you, then it's going to be different. You know what I'm saying? If you were raised with compassion for people and yourself, it's going to come off different. You're going to see a person with true intentions and a person who's driven by the ego.
Right.
So that's a self-reflect, that's something to think about. And abandoning ourselves. That's the other thing. During 2023, it's been a lot of work for me because I abandoned myself. And that's the most hurtful thing that I ever had to deal with. I dealt with a lot of hurtful things, but by far, that's the most hurtful one.
Abandoning yourself.
Abandoning myself.
That's deep. I think for me, the thing that I really had to realize about myself and really reflect on is the emotional part.
Mm-hmm.
Releasing that for me, understand other people, and be open. I was very closed off, and the thing of it is I wouldn't let people in. I had to make sure I always stayed guarded because it was a protection mechanism for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Because it was just like not being able to trust individuals because it's hard to trust other people, especially when you feel like other people have let you down or, people abandon you.
Mm-hmm.
So the biggest thing that I had to really do self-reflection on was, within myself is awareness, self-care, opening up to people, not be afraid of my emotions. And I'm still working on my fears because I realize I have a lot of fears. And I realized, it took a while to realize like I love being isolated from people, but I didn't know how to let people in.
Mm-hmm.
And then when people tried to come in, I tried to control the situation on how they came in.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you got to learn how to let go of certain things and not just go with the flow, but you know what I'm saying? Like see where it takes you in life. I'm still working on that now. The year ain't over with yet. I still got about 2 more months. But
until it takes you off a rocky cliff.
Right. I still got about 2 more months. But the thing of it is just like, what I'm saying, being accountable for that, being aware. And, for most people, that's hard to do. That's hard to like come up and like say that to yourself or say it to anybody. Like, I see these things about myself. You know what? I no longer want to be fearful. I want to be self-aware. I don't want to be selfish. I don't, what I'm saying? Like, I want to be able to grow. But I think sometimes what's hard for other people to adapt to is your time frame. Because sometimes people try to put you on a time frame. And I feel like when it comes to certain process, you have to really do it at your own pace so that you can be aware and acknowledge what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I think that's one thing is just like adapting to the situation.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely adapting to the situation. It depends on the situation too.
Yeah, it depends on the situation.
Because I learned, and this is why I said, abandoning my own self, because I put 110% into everybody else.
Right.
But I couldn't keep that same energy with myself. And so, when you actually take time out and you say, well, damn, I didn't used to be like this. Where did that person go?
Right. And especially if you hear that all the time. If somebody,
absolutely.
when you adapt to being somebody that you know where you overly doing it.
Oh, yeah.
And then you find your self-worth and you cater to your needs. And then that person turn around and say, well, you're not the same anymore because you're not giving them what they need. It's like, you know, it's an eye opener.
It is. And then that's where you learn that where people are taking more of their share than they should.
Right.
You know, they, and when I say taking more share of than they should, is you keep giving and they're not happy enough.
Right.
You know, they always want something else. And then you give that and that's not happy enough. Then they want something else. So they're always going to find something where they complain about and you give them that. Then they're going to find something else. So then you're going overboard the way you're really just, you know, really shitting on yourself at the end of the day.
No, you're right.
Yourself and who you are, your morals, your culture, like just yourself, who you are as a person. When you came into this motherfucker, and that can be work, any relationship.
True.
When you came into this motherfucker, you came in happy. You came in with a clear mind, a clear sound, and a clear vision. When you leave this motherfucker, your vision's not clear. You know what you want and you know your true intentions, but it's like a scrambled egg in your brain.
Nah, you right. You left dumbfounded.
Yeah. And then you start to be angry at yourself, you know, and pretty much you go into that victim mode. Like, why? How did this happen? Then you really can start doing your work on yourself mentally and emotionally, like going to therapy. And you got to say, okay, I got to take accountability of what, you know, that is for me.
You have to.
I know I was a victim of these things, of these circumstances, but what is my responsibility? What was my accountability in that? That I allow that.
Right. And you know what? You think about it, you got a good point, you know, because I think we all get to that point in life where we have to sit down and do a self-reflection of like our past on like, where did I go wrong? Where did I get too lax to where like I stopped being myself to please the world or please an individual or please my family, where you gave up on yourself because nobody else was cheering your ass on.
Oh, yeah.
And then once you actually woke up from the situation, then you realize like, damn, I'm in this by myself. You got nobody like there for support, cheering you on. Now, don't get it twisted now, because you'll get the motherfuckers that be like, oh, I'm here for you. You got to make sure they actually here for you, not just wanting to know what's going on. Because you get a lot of those. You know what I'm saying?
Well, when you're unhealed, you don't know their true intention. You think what they're doing, you know, doing this and that and giving you this and that, you think that's their true intentions. But once you're out of it and you start doing their work, you start seeing a different person with that person. You know what I'm saying? You see the alternative motive with that. Iceberg.
No, you really do. You're right.
And that's when you sit back and you start really, you know, questioning yourself and your choices in your life that you made, you know.
That you made. Sometimes, you know, you wish you can just go back and just be like, you know, like, can I go back like 2 years ago and start over?
Right.
Hell, 7 years ago and just start over, you know? Like the stuff that I know now, you know what I'm saying? I would change so much, you know? And it's just kind of like, you know, that it may not, you know, make you a better person or it may not make you feel better, but, you know, sometimes you wish you can just reflect on it and be like, man, if I would have just known what I know now, things would be so much different.
Absolutely.
Things would be so much different.
But, you know, it happened. And, you know, that's the other reflection is what can I do about it now?
True.
It happened. This is where I'm at now. Emotionally, this is where I'm at. And, you know, I have to learn. And one thing I learned too, and, you know, this was brought to my attention, is I have a brilliant mind. I see things like full circle. The problem is I hate starting small.
Right.
I hate starting small. So, you know, the thing is, I'm starting small by working on myself and the things that I need to do.
But have you come to notice like working on yourself is the hardest thing you will ever have to do in life?
Oh,
the hardest thing you ever have to do in life, because it's like, you know, you have to be so real with yourself and you almost have to hurt your own feelings.
Yeah.
Because the thing of it is that I think we tend to go out here and we listen to other people tell us like who we are, what we're going to be, what type of person we are and stuff like that. And sometimes we take some of those things and make it our personality without us really knowing who the fuck we really are.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, you know what? Should nobody tell you what type of person that you are? Should nobody tell you who you're going to be? That's where we all went wrong.
Because we're always trying to be part of a mold.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We're all trying to fit in. And you know where it starts. It starts from, elementary. We always want that one friend. We want friends to like us. We want people to like us. That's where it starts. And some of it starts early at home. We want to be accepted. And so we change who we are, knowing damn well that's not us.
No, you're right. But, and you're right. Like, it do start at elementary, right? But then at the same time, it kind of starts when we start getting to believe into role models. Mm. Because, see, prime example, when you see a role model as a kid, even as a young adult, teenager, it doesn't even matter. When you are inspired by somebody, you don't think about how their life really is. You only taking their inspirational aspect of it and be like, I want to be like this person.
Mm-hmm. I never had a role. I think my role model really was my grandmother, because I saw the struggle that she went through.
Right.
And people used to be like, Jordan's my role model. Yeah, Jordan ain't my role model. You know what I'm saying? He's a good player. I respect that, as a person. But I don't know him personally. I never sat down one-on-one with him. He never gave me any guidance or any ways, any tools to deal with my life as a child at that moment.
Right.
So he's never, has been my role model. I've never had any celebrity or top athlete. Now, I love some top athlete. Michael Jordan was one of them, but never my role model.
See, for me, I don't even know if I had role models because I was too busy having imaginary friends. That's just keeping it real. Laugh. I'm just keeping it real.
You came from the left field.
Now, I'm just saying, though, for real, I was a huge Michael Jordan fan. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, Michael Jordan was just like my favorite basketball player.
Right.
Like, back then they showed all the Chicago Bull games on regular TV, So that's like, cause I played basketball. He was my favorite athlete. Mm-hmm. But like you said, as far as like a role model and wanting to be like Jordan, I knew I couldn't be like Jordan. I couldn't even dunk. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like, I wanted to be a good basketball player, but I wanted to be my own superstar, cause I think I was too busy, in survivor mode. And I was too busy trying to please everybody else and make sure everybody else was good that I didn't have time to think about a role model. Mm-hmm. But I found peace when I had my imaginary friends and my imaginary family, because I was important in a different type of way. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Right. I didn't have to care for nobody. They didn't need to be fed, cleaned, or talked to or whatever. I could just talk to them. Mm-hmm. And then whatever they wanted to say back, I can just believe it in my own head what they just said to me, because I made the shit up.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So the thing of it is that, like, hell, as an adult now, I could talk about my imaginary family. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like, you think about the different types of trauma growing up, having to do that. And nobody ever knew about my whole imaginary family except for me. But I mean, you know what I'm saying? But like, when you build something like that in your head, it's kind of like you want it to be your reality. And then what happens is trying to find that imagination and make it your reality comes 10 times harder. Mm-hmm. Because then in your reality, you're not, what I had to learn, you can't control everything. Yeah. See, in the imaginary world, you can control everything.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But in the real world, it don't go like that.
Mm-mm. I mean, in the real world, you're dealing with a lot of chaos, a lot of shit, and a lot of toxicity, a lot of bullshit. And that, like I said, that's why my grandmother was my role model, because I seen her deal with a lot of shit on a level ain't nobody ever dealt with.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And, being a Black woman, I saw that in my grandmother, how hard she worked and, the bullshit she had to go through, people talking, the minute, all the personalities that she had to deal with, because she had like 14 children. And so, of course, they've like, they used to say, these things about her and not even talk about their own father like that. But I'm like, she took responsibility. She went and got 3 jobs to make sure she fed everybody. And then on top of that, took in her grandchildren. So, I just look at things differently. And, the more I talk about it, the more appreciation I have and the love that I have for my grandmother.
Right.
So that was like another, like you said, you have to deal with yourself. And that I never thought working on yourself was that hard.
It's hard. I'm telling you, it's hard.
People don't tell you this. This is another reflection. And we're just going to keep it honest and keep it real. Truth hurts.
Lay it on them.
People don't really talk about the layers that you have to go through. And then when, it's probably easier when you're a child because you don't have that many layers.
Right.
But when you become adult, you have so many layers and you've been hurt and, abandoned, betrayal, and like you have all these layers. So they like cast iron. It's hard to pull back on that bitch.
It's hella hard.
And I didn't realize, like, when you lose yourself and who you are as a person, because you still have that vision of when you were young and that person you were.
Right.
But you became a different person. That's the hardest person to rebuild.
It is, because you got to start over. You got to start over from You got to start over from scratch. And then you got to remember, like, you know what? Do I want any part of the old me to even exist in the new me?
Right.
Like you said, you got to really like tear that shit up, dissect it, chop it up, throw pieces away, grind it. Mm-hmm. But the hardest realization is when you got to figure out, who am I?
Yeah. And that's the hardest question, especially if you've been in a relationship for those with a narcissistic person or just like toxicity
right
through and out, and you lose yourself trying to prove yourself to people. And you ask yourself, who am I? Let me tell you, the first time I went to therapy and this lady asked me, she said, well, who are you? I couldn't answer that. Right. And I was just like, when I first went, I was like, maybe she just like trying to get to know who I am. She nosy. Right. And then on my second time around going to meditation, and we have discussions, and one of the topics was, who am I? And when they got around to me, I couldn't answer that question. And I said, well, I don't know. And they was like, well, Charity, you a lot. And then so they were naming off stuff. And, at that point, I realized I got to rebuild myself. And I never thought it was that hard. There's days where I want to sit alone and really dissect my brain.
Right.
Because I'm so lost sometimes. And it's sad because you killed yourself. You killed the old you, right?
Right.
The younger you, right? And you're trying to kill this person that you have now that's really making you stagnant, making you like just clam up. And that person's hard to kill. You know what I'm saying? Like, does that make any sense?
Nah, it makes a lot of sense because that old person got to know you. Mm-hmm. On that side of who you thought you really was. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of hard for you to get away from it now. Mm-hmm. But like you said earlier, though, I can relate because, when I was in the institution, we started like this kind of like yearbook thing where like when people would leave or they got, discharged, we would all write something in their journal for them to remember us by.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so everybody would have something to say. So everybody would pass along the journal and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the hardest part for me was reading what people said about me. Because I couldn't see that in myself.
Okay.
So I'm just like, damn, I wish I could see through other people's eyes how they view me, because I don't view myself the same way.
Oh, shit. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's why sometimes it's hard to be in relationships, because when somebody see you, you know, where they just like, oh, you're my world and you this and that. And you be like, I don't know what the hell they seeing. Because I don't see that person. I see a person that's still struggling, still trying to survive, still trying to make ends meet, still going day by day, still trying to figure out like, hey, you know what? Today is hard, but I'm still pushing through.
Right.
You know, I'm still having a lot of myself every day because I got other people that I care about too. You know what? I'm not trying to put them through something that you know what I'm saying? I don't want I know they can't handle. So that's what I'm too busy worried about. I can't see through the vision of how I see myself other than that part of me. So when other people see me in a different light, that's hard for me to translate with them, because it's like they speak in a different language.
So it's hard to accept the positivity.
Yeah, it's hard to accept that shit.
Yeah.
I don't even like when people tell me good things about myself, because you know what? It makes me feel very uncomfortable inside, because I can't relate to this. I'm just like, nah, you know, it's good.
But have you ever wondered why it makes you feel uncomfortable though?
Yeah. I'm still working on that too. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't like it. I don't need recognition for shit. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of stuff is just kind of like, because when you still trying to figure out who you are as a person, and the thing of it is that like, I think I concentrated so much on what people was telling me. I was trying to become that more than just naturally becoming of who I am. Okay. Because you know what? You work so hard. Let me rephrase that. I work so hard trying not to be a disappointment to others, trying to abide and live by what they see me as. I never gave myself a chance to live for me.
Okay.
So you see all the pressure that I put on myself, trying to become all these things that everybody said about me, instead of me taking a step back, reflecting, acknowledging and being aware of my emotions on how I truly felt, why I felt that way, what's causing me this pain, to get to the root of the cause of that. I never took that time to do that, because my mom was always on that treadmill running to keep up with what everybody was saying, how they saw me as. Now that, you know, I'm older and I'm trying to work on that self-reflection of just me, you wake up and you're like, damn, I still don't like what I see. I still feel the same way I felt like damn 30 years ago. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, when you wake up sometimes you just ask like, God, like, man, am I getting punished? Like, what, like, I'm gonna get a breakthrough? Like, what's going on? Like, you know, why am I still here? You know, all these little thoughts that go on in my head, you know what I'm saying? That's the type of negative self-reflection that I go through. And I know most people go through that too. You know what I'm saying? That you have to deal with. But then when you go into the outside world, you have to hear people say these good things about you, because you are being kind. You are being like, you know, attentive to other people, to making sure that they don't hurt. But nobody really see the real you inside, because they only look on the outside of that mask and that armor that presents like, hey, I'm a nice person. Hey, I'm willing to help you. Hey, what do you need? They don't see through that stone. You see what I'm saying? So it's kind of hard until, like, you know what, you go home at night and you take off all that armor and you got to reflect on who the real you are, but you're still trying to figure out, who am I?
Yeah. Because
the puzzle pieces don't fit.
Damn. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So that's hard to deal with every single day. Every single day. People see you smile, right? Or people see you laughing and you joking, you having a good conversation, because in their presence, you know what? That's how they see you as. So it's easy to turn that on and adapt to that, to make them feel like, hey, everything is okay. There's no worries in the world. It's easy to adapt to everybody else's needs except for your own.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Damn. Okay. Yeah.
So you see what I'm saying? So it's easy to have everybody to think one way, but it's harder to get people to see who you really are. Because when they've been adapted so long to seeing their ego of what they first met, they're not ready to meet what's behind the scenes.
Well, I think for me, it's like, I don't like being vulnerable with folks.
Right. It's scary.
It's scary. Like, I show folks the scary part of me. And that probably makes people like not want to approach me. And that has a lot to do with their insecurities too.
But also you protecting yourself.
Right. But, and now I'm a lot better about reading folks.
Right.
Especially like who I allow in my space.
Right.
Because I think, back then I was allowing everybody and anybody in my space and trying to help everybody, make it to the top. And I'm a type of nigga like, I'm not going to just pull myself up. I'm pulling people up with me.
Right.
And I respect that and I appreciate that because, we all started from the bottom somewhere.
Nah, you right about that.
But what I also learned is like, I can't bring everybody with me.
Yeah. And I think, we learn that as we get older.
Yeah. By
the time we hit our 30s, because it's just like you said, you think about it and you reflect back, or like when you was in high school, college or whatever, you had tons of friends. Mm-hmm. Like you said, letting everybody in, because back then it was like, if you was a popular person, everybody gravitated to you. Mm-hmm. They didn't even have to know you like that. Yeah, they gravitated to you, but it's like, as you get older, you realize like, hey, not everybody can ride with me. Mm-hmm. Only got room for 5 people in this car. I can't put nobody in the trunk.
Yeah, because not everybody want good intentions for you.
Right.
Everybody sees your potential, but once you get to the top, everybody's gonna have some issues if you bring in those toxic people with you.
Yeah, because you got to do your own reflection and be like, you know what? Who put in all the work? If you're the one putting in the work, you got to turn around and see who you want, who's like left behind. What did they do for you?
Absolutely.
Because if they're not pushing you forward and they just trailing you, you don't need them.
Nah.
You don't need them.
Everybody looking for a free ride and nobody want to be put in the work. And so like, nah. So I learned that too, reflect on that. And that was probably one of my hardest things because I do, I like to believe in people. Shit. You know what I'm saying? If you want to go places, I'm your biggest fan. Fuck that.
The thing of it is, it's just like now when you meet new people and stuff like that, they got to match your energy. They got to have the same ambition. Absolutely. You ain't got to have the same goals. You just got to have the same ambition.
You got to have the same ambition. You're right. You know what I'm saying? You can have the same goal with a motherfucker, but the ambition can be different.
Right. You know how how our parents used to tell us, grandparents and everybody, be like, you got to crawl before you walk.
Oh, absolutely.
Look, that's why we got knee problems now. We still crawling, but it's okay. I'm still crawling right now. 5 surgeries in. I'm still crawling. Eventually, one day I'm going to walk.
I think I'm on my foot.
You know what I'm saying? Eventually, one day I'm going to walk. But, I know it's going to take time. But you know what I'm saying? Like that saying is so true, though. You got to crawl before you walk. Because if you try to walk before you crawl, you're going to get bounced back right on your ass.
Right. And that's where, the fear starts to set in and the doubt start to set in.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to overleap instead of like taking each step. And, of course, everybody want to be rich. Everybody want to be to a point where wherever they want to be. But, you got to start
somewhere
at the finish line. And, they always say that, what's the thing? The rabbit and the tortoise.
I don't know. Now, I know one of them, they had a little race, and I think the tortoise ended up winning, right? It was a book or something. Yeah,
it was Slow and Steady Win the Race. That's what it's called. Slow and Steady Win the Race.
Oh, that's the name of the book?
Yeah, but see, the rabbit was like, I'm going to win this. He was arrogant, and his ego got in the way, and he thought he was going to win it. And then at the end, he ended up losing because guess what? The tortoise put in the work.
Man.
He was taking all these shortcuts, the rabbit was, and it's still not matching. So, that's the same thing that pertains to life too, as well. So I think like we talking about reflecting on yourself and actually working on yourself. That's the hardest assignment I have. One of the hardest assignments.
Right.
The second hardest assignment is being a parent, a stay-at-home parent. That's the the hardest assignment. But just trying to redo yourself and redevelop and reconstruct, should I say, those part of yourself, it's hard.
It's very hard.
Like, there's days where I'm frustrated. There's days where I'm sad because I think about what I've lost, who I lost, I was attached to, you know, I wouldn't call it childhood, the child.
The inner child?
Well, no, not the inner child.
Who you saying you attached to then?
The happy child.
Okay, we can go with that. The happy child. Yeah. I was just trying to figure out what you were talking about.
The happy child. The child that, the person that always jokes, the one that has compassion, the one that's vulnerable, and that laughs. They used to call me Smiley. I don't know where that person went.
Right.
That person was there for maybe a short time, and then that all changed.
Right.
So I did a lot of things. So that's for you guys for today, is to reflect on your life. Reflect on what that means to you. Like, who are you? Who am I? That's a good thing. Who am I? Reflect on that and see what you find, and see what reconstructing that you need to do and who did you lose in the process of doing that. That being said, today we're going to call it short because it's our 20th one. And so
I hope everybody enjoyed, the podcast. Like, once again, like Charity said, reach out on the podcast, leave a review on both our Instagram pages, leave a review and let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about that we haven't talked about. But just like, let us know what the podcasts have done for you, in general. Feedback is always like really important for us because, we listen to our viewers and stuff like that. If it's anything that you really want us to talk about or touch bases on, just let us know. We'll do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're looking to, because I know we used to do live sessions, conversations on Facebook. And so I'm trying to figure out a way to do that with the podcast. It may have to be like a YouTube or something like that. It's live. So that being said, I want to thank everyone for listening and coming out and checking out our podcast. But like Bonnie said, please leave comments and do a self-reflect. Goodbye.
Peace.